like I watched the Anthony Padilla one, and there's a girl, Dissociative or something, I think his name, she's British, and like I watched it and I was like, oh, like she seems crazy, but I know that's like what I
Trisha's obviously not very educated on this subject or has misunderstood. It's hard to sit here and watch somebody, one, call me crazy and spread information that's very incorrect and damaging about our community, which undoes a lot of the hard work that me and a lot of other content creators in the DID community have done. It's a group effort, and it's hard to sit here and watch somebody who has such a huge reach spread such damaging information. And I'm not sure that Trish really understands how damaging this is. All these things are completely wrong. Scientifically, they are wrong. I don't know if I can get through this whole thing. Hello everybody, welcome back to another video by DissociaDID. If you don't know who we are, my whole channel is dedicated to educating people about dissociative identity disorder. This is going to be some very different content to the educational stuff that we usually produce. A lot of people have been asking me today, as soon as I woke up, have you seen this video by Trisha Paytas? Trish has uploaded a video. She claims she has DID. I'm not going to spend any of this video saying whether I think she does or doesn't, because I don't know. I'm not a professional. It is not my place to say whether she is faking or not faking, and frankly, it's none of my business. I've heard that I mentioned in this video, and a lot of people have been asking me to respond to it, and I have not seen it yet. So I thought, okay, well, people are obviously searching for dissociative identity disorder right now after the video that we did with Anthony, which became trending. So I'm really glad that DID is getting the attention that it deserves, so that people can learn about it, so that we can destigmatize it, so that the people who need help and need treatment can get that treatment. It's very important that the content that's being produced at the moment around dissociative identity disorder is scientifically accurate, and that it is not stigmatizing, and that it isn't going to damage our community or damage the lives or the reputations of the people who live with it, just like we do. So we are professionally diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder by an expert in the field. We have been for a number of years. Our whole life revolves around educating people about mental illness and specifically DID. So I'm going to react to this video, and hopefully it will give us a chance to kind of debunk some of the myths and maybe some of the inaccurate information that I've heard is portrayed in this video, so that you can get an authentic response from somebody who suffers with this every day, and also somebody who knows the ins and outs of the disorder as much as I can. I know this is very different from what we usually have, but it's been very requested, and I think that it's a good opportunity to educate and to spread awareness in hopefully a healthy way. So it's 3:30 in the morning. 3:22. I'm nervous. Right.
Hey guys, what is up? So today I am doing a video which I feel like is a surprise to some, but I feel like once you know, it's probably not that big of a surprise to others, and that is a Meet My Alters video. If you guys don't know what an alter is people that have multiple personalities.
No, it's not. Sorry, Trish, no, it's not. An alter stands for alternate state of consciousness. An alter is not a person who has multiple personalities. The person who fronts the most often, is in the body the most often, is called the host. A lot of people tend to think that that is the original, or the person whose alters belong to them, but that's a very outdated way of thinking. We have a lot of content on our channel that explains how DID works, how it develops, the theory of structural dissociation. A very simple way that I like to put it is, if you were to drop a glass bowl and it shatters into a number of pieces on the floor, which piece is the original piece? They're all part of the same bowl, but they're also all their own individual pieces. They matter just as much on their own as they do when they were part of a bowl. They're still their own object, their own entity, their own existence. No, an alter is not somebody who has multiple personalities. An alter is a personality, an individual, a fragment of consciousness, which can develop completely as their own person with their own memories. There'll be amnesia between different alters, so they may not have the same memories as other people. They may have different skills that, again, the amnesia means that one alter may have learned something that the other individual, another alter, won't have any memory of learning. So, no, we're 20 seconds in and that's already incorrect. But hopefully this will improve as we go along.
I dated a girl who also had DID, and we talked about it a lot there. She has
I have actually spoken to the girl that she's speaking about here, and this individual, I hope she won't mind me saying, has said that she's very offended by this video, very hurt by this video. So just because you've known somebody with DID, that does not necessarily mean that you're educated on the topic of it. Yeah, that's quite sad to hear, actually, from the person that she's talking about, that even though they dated and must have spent a lot of time together, that this video was actually extremely offensive to her. Again, I don't really know what Trisha says in this video, except that apparently a lot of it is incorrect. So this is a first time response. I'm just gonna try not to speak over everything she says.
In my real life, so many people ask, do you have a disorder? Are you diagnosed with something? Are you bipolar? Are you schizo? And I'm like, honestly, I've never been diagnosed with anything. The closest thing that I have self-diagnosed myself, I guess, is multiple personality disorder.
Okay, so again, multiple personality disorder is an extremely outdated term. The term is dissociative identity disorder. It used to be known as multiple personality disorder. It was renamed dissociative identity disorder in the early 90s. So actually in the academic world, the phrase multiple personality disorder has not been used professionally for about 30 years. No, not multiple personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, but they are the same thing, just a different name.
Dissociative identity disorder or both, because there's some differences, there's some similarities, and some people just...
No, there's not. No, they're the same disorder, Trish. They're the same disorder. There is no difference. Same thing, different name.
Some differences, there's some similarities, and some people just think they're like
they are the same.
We're all completely different. For me, I consider them quite similar, but I think my disassociating comes differently than in the form of my alters. So I feel like
no. The alters are formed because the conscious mind dissociates essentially from itself. Dissociative identity disorder alters are fragmented parts of your consciousness. They are all their own individuals. They develop as their own individuals, as I said, but it is formed because a child experiencing extreme or repeated childhood trauma cannot deal with the knowledge and the awareness that this is happening to them. So the brain dissociates. It puts up a wall, amnesia, between different parts of the consciousness so that some parts will remember this trauma, some parts will hold traumatic memories to be able to deal with it, and others won't. The whole disorder is built around dissociation. That is why it was renamed dissociative identity disorder. It's not a personality disorder. Yes, multiple personalities are involved with it, but dissociation is an integral part of DID. You cannot have DID, dissociative identity disorder, and not dissociate. It also involves other types of dissociation, subcategories like derealization, depersonalization, otherwise known as DPDR. So no, you cannot have multiple personalities, you cannot have MPD, you cannot have DID without dissociation. It is a dissociative disorder.
Alters are my multiple personality, and I feel my dissociativeness is in a different realm, and it usually only takes place, I guess, under Trixie, which I guess that's disassociating because like another alter is coming to the front. This is not something that, like, I don't want to scare people. I always thought I kind of was like taking other people's personalities or borrowing or becoming like my friends or becoming like my boyfriends or becoming around the person I'm around, which I still do to it.
Okay, this isn't an unusual thing, okay? A lot of people, when I've said like, oh yes, dissociative identity disorder, explain that it's essentially different fragments, different personalities, different individuals. They've been like, oh, well, yeah, everybody's a little bit DID. I'm a completely different person when I'm at work to when I am at home. Your personality is fluid. Human nature is fluid. You are allowed to change, and when you connect with people, when you empathize with people, it is not unusual for you to sort of adopt certain mannerisms or things that represent the people around you and kind of interpret that into a part of who you are. This is why we are so fluid. This is how we are human, how we connect with other people. That is normal. That does not mean that you have DID. Again, I'm not trying to say that Trish is faking or that she doesn't have DID. Again, I don't know. I am just trying to use this video to educate as much as I can about the things that perhaps Trish has got wrong or misunderstood. We're 2 minutes in and currently that's quite a lot. So especially if you're self-diagnosing, which Trish has said she's self-diagnosing herself, that does not make you any less valid. It's very important if you are doing that, and you should only really do that while you are waiting for a diagnosis, or if it's completely impossible for you to get a diagnosis, maybe you can't afford to see a professional, maybe there's no professionals even in your country who will deal with DID because it's such a stigmatized disorder and it's a very complex disorder, and that means you require a lot of training to really be able to understand it / treat it / diagnose it. If you are self-diagnosing, it is absolutely integrally important, and I cannot stress how important it is that you fully understand all the details behind this disorder, the symptoms, how it works. Again, if you want to learn about DID, we have a Debunking DID playlist, which is debunking the stigmas and inaccurate connotations around dissociative identity disorder. And everything that we link there, we link all our resources. Every source that we use in the video you can find in the description box, so you know exactly where our information is coming from, all the medical journals, all the studies, all the books. You'll be able to find everything so that you know that we're using reputable sources. So if you want to learn about the science and stuff, that is a good place to start, because you can then go off and do your own research, which we do recommend doing. So there is nothing integrally wrong with self-diagnosing as long as you understand what is going on and know that self-diagnosis is no way a replacement for a professional diagnosis by somebody who is qualified. So please be careful.
And I don't think everyone with DID has this. I don't think everyone with multiple personality disorder has this. I don't think they just become someone else. I think Trish,
they kind of do. Alters aren't somebody becoming somebody else or somebody picking up traits from somebody else. It is an entirely different part of your consciousness and brain that has completely different life memories, completely different opinions. They may look different inside, they may have a different sex, age, gender, anything like that. They are their own person. It is not somebody pretending to be or suddenly changing a little bit, you know, every other day. There is so much more to DID than just having alters. This is a disorder that stems from childhood trauma. It is extremely debilitating to a lot of people, and it is not a disorder to take lightly. The dissociation is not quite what Trish is talking about here. It is to extreme levels. Also, it is dissociation, not disassociation. You can have dissociative disorders without having dissociative identity disorder, but DID and OSDD, otherwise specified dissociative disorder, are the only disorders where you will have alters. So you can dissociate very heavily. You can have derealization, depersonalization, other types of dissociation, and not have alters. So not have DID or OSDD. Just because you're dissociating heavily does not mean that you may have DID.
Most recently, obviously, Anthony Padilla did this, and I was like, oh shit, like I really wish I knew when they were coming to light. Like I know.
You wouldn't know always, unless you are co-conscious, which is kind of like, if you imagine being in the front, being in the body, as being in the driver's seat of a car. Being co-con is having somebody sitting in the front seat next to you. So you can feel their thoughts, sometimes you can hear their thoughts, you'll be able to have an exchange, a passive influence of their emotions and things like that. But if they are actually fronting, so another alter actually takes over the body, generally, unless you have very good communication and have been through therapy and things like that, again, this is not an easy thing to do, it takes time, you will not know what they were doing because of that amnesia barrier, and amnesia is necessary to have DID, so amnesia is memory loss, complete memory loss. So that doesn't quite add up either. I think what Trish is trying to talk about is co-consciousness and then getting confused between how alters fully front and whether you can and can't have memory of that. Again, it differs for every system, but in order to be diagnosed with DID, you do have to have that amnesia.
But T is definitely the protector, is definitely non-human, is definitely not of this world, and so it's not really him or her, it's it's T, and T is the one that always like has like, I say he, but like, because in my mind it's he, but it's not, is the one to be the strength, be the confidence. Everyone's like, Trish, how do you swim with confidence? It's like, well, it's T taking over Trish, because like, what you guys see is Trish. Like, this is, hi, Trish. If you go to my Instagram, it's Trisha Paytas. But, yeah, but...
Nice plug. If you want to go to our Instagram, it's at DissociaDID.
Trixie has been my twin since, Trisha's twin since, 7 years old. Trixie's trauma began at 10, and that's when I stopped talking about her.
Okay, so this is another thing about her talking about trauma happening at around the age 10 to Tracy. Okay, in order to develop DID, it's kind of complicated. You wouldn't have necessarily fully formed alters before the trauma that creates the DID. So DID is essentially the brain being unable to fully form a singular one personality. When we're children, we start off with basic concepts and awareness as children. That's why babies can go from being very happy to crying in like 0.5 seconds and the opposite way round. They are very basic states of being. I need food, I need love, I need to go to the toilet, I'm cold, this hurts. Very basic awareness. As we grow older, we start to learn about the world, we start to understand things, we start to learn what we do and don't like, we start to create connections to our primary caregivers and understand the give and take that comes with relationships. We start to form our own opinions and ideas. And as all this awareness of what life is and what being a person is kind of comes together, around the ages of between 7 and 9, the personality coalesces, it integrates into one singular personality, and once that has been made, it cannot be broken. In order to develop DID, there has to be repeated childhood trauma before the ages when your personality fully integrates, because this trauma is what makes the brain put up these amnesia walls and say, nope, we can't have any recollection of this, we cannot survive this if we are aware of it, we need to dissociate heavily in order to survive. It is a survival mechanism. It is very serious. In order for DID to form, this has to happen before the personality has coalesced, because these amnesia walls that have gone up to protect this child from the trauma prevents the personality from being able to fully combine, because there's these big walls up in the way. You couldn't really have these fully formed alters before the age of the trauma. I'm not saying that Trish hadn't had trauma before that. She may well have done. It is absolutely none of my business, and I'm not going to pry. But just for those of you who don't know, that is how DID forms. So if, for example, there was only a trauma at age 10 and Trixie had already been Trixie, then that doesn't quite add up with how DID works. Again, a lot of people don't know about their childhood trauma. That is absolutely normal and actually very necessary for dissociative identity disorder. If you have DID and maybe your first memories of trauma are around the age of 10 or later on in life, that does not necessarily mean that you don't have DID, doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't have childhood trauma, because in order to develop DID, according to the theory of structural dissociation, which is the most accepted and recent scientific theory around making DID and how it develops, you have to have repeated childhood trauma, disorganized attachments to your primary caregiver, and the inherent ability to dissociate to a very high level as a child. So those three things are what you need to develop DID. And again, trauma is subjective. What could be completely soul-destroying to one child may be survivable to another, especially if you consider that maybe one of those children has a healthy environment in which to cope with and process this trauma, and another child may not. It is extremely subjective and does depend on your upbringing and how that individual was raised. Okay, so I've already been filming for 25 minutes and I'm 6 minutes into this 20-minute video.
Struggle? I don't know how to describe it.
It's a disorder, Trish.
To me, I don't consider it a disorder, but the same beings inside of them, and they're able to more come to the light. And this sounds crazy. I sound like I'm losing my mind.
See, this is another issue. A lot of people do think that people with DID are crazy, or that, you know, it's something that can't actually exist in real life, because all of the media influence that we see is in books and movies, and a lot of it involves horror tropes. We are not a horror trope. This does exist in real life. It is a very serious disorder. And so many people hear things like, okay, so you're hearing voices. Okay, so you have alters. You're completely nuts. And that is so damaging to us in our community. Because when somebody tells you you're faking, when somebody tells you that you're crazy or that you're making it up or whatever, that's not just invalidating you and your disorder, it also invalidates why you have this disorder. So you're not just telling somebody, no, you don't have DID. You're telling people that trauma that happened to you, that potential abuse in childhood, not real. You're making it up. Can you imagine how devastating that is? For somebody to look you in the eyes as you're expressing this very vulnerable part of yourself, something that has happened to you because somebody did things to a child that nobody should do, and somebody looks at you and says, you're nuts. It's not real. You're making it up. Can you imagine that? Don't ever call anybody with a mental illness crazy.
Because when I watch other people talk about it, I'm like, they're crazy.
I honestly didn't know she was going to say that right then. Oh my god, no. No.
Like, I watched the Anthony Padilla one, and there's a girl, DissociaDID or something, I think his name, she's British, and like, I watched it and I was like, oh, like, she seems crazy, but I know that's like what
I knew that she called me crazy at some point in this video. I didn't know when. So in the Anthony Padilla video, who is wonderful, by the way, we flew out to LA on 1 day's notice. It was a 22-hour journey. It was very stressful. It was very frightening for us to do that. Anthony was incredible. His whole team was incredible. Reassuring, understanding, calming, very attentive. And putting yourself out there like that, trusting people with personal insights into you, who you are, your life, your past, your alters, everything that we are, is very difficult to do. It's very vulnerable. And we put ourselves out there knowing that we're going to get people who think that we're crazy. People who think that we're making it up. People who think that we're doing it for attention or for money or for whatever you want to say. We get death threats regularly. We get hate every day, all day, every day. Very personal hate. That's hard enough without a mental illness to deal with, especially such a complex one like DID that revolves around trauma. So it's hard. We do this because we know somebody has to take the hit. No change has ever come about in the world, in history, without sacrifice. And I'm not saying that we're martyrs or that we're sacrificing anything. We're not. We're incredibly lucky. We're so lucky. And, you know, without the people who watch us and listen to us and take us seriously, we would be nothing. It doesn't matter how much we use our voice. If nobody shared it, we'd just be talking into the void. But we were prepared for this kind of stuff. We hear it every day. But it still hurts to put so much of yourself out there, to be so completely vulnerable, and still have people look at you and be like, she's nuts, she's crazy, you know, she's just a crazy person, rather than seeing me as, you know, an individual, a person with hopes and dreams, a person who's suffered, who's trying to do something good. That does not make me a good person. I just think that it doesn't make me a bad person. It's hard to be so open and be reduced by people to a trope. So yes, our name is Dissociative. That's the name of our system. That is the name for all the alters in this body collectively. So yeah, that actually hurt more than I thought it was going to, even though I knew at some point in this video she called me crazy. Please don't do that to people. We're all people with our own life. Anything that you say about anybody, any content creator online, in most cases it's going to get back to them. Just remember that we're all trying to do our best out here. We're just trying to do the right thing. And I'm sure by making this video, Trish is being very brave and trying to do what she feels is right. But just remember to be delicate to other people, regardless of whether you know they're going to be watching you or not. There are people out there who are going to be affected by your actions. So just a little PSA to bear in mind that it's important to take care of your other human beings just as much as it is to take care of yourself. But taking care of yourself has always got to be #1 priority, and that doesn't make you selfish.
I'm not always confident, that's tea. I'm not always strong, that's tea.
You can not always be strong and not always be confident and still be you. Like, sometimes I'm super confident, sometimes I'm not. I'm still Nin. Other alters may have more of those traits, so Kyle is generally a lot braver than I am. We're also both extremely stubborn, and sometimes when you are blendy or you are co-conscious, it's really difficult to tell where one alter starts and the other ends. But just having these discrepancies in how you feel, your traits, your personality, does not necessarily mean that your personality isn't singular or full or coalesced. Again, not trying to discount Trish, I'm just trying to advise from my perspective and what I know about the disorder to other people who may be feeling the same way.
Tyson is very much my sensitive emotionalness, I feel like.
Again, she's referring to alters as being her or holding her, whereas alters are, yes, technically a part of the whole, but also completely their own individuals. They were created to keep you safe, to protect you, but they're not necessarily there to serve you. They don't belong to you. They're their own people. So their emotions are their emotions. Just because, for example, somebody is very sensitive or very strong, that does not mean that it is your strength. So Kyle is strong on his own. Kyle is sensitive on his own. I'm also strong and sensitive on my own. Kyle's strength does not mean that he's holding my strength for me, or that he's representing my strength by being strong. He is strong himself. That is his strength. Kyle is a strong person. If I wasn't strong and Kyle was strong, that wouldn't necessarily mean that Kyle is my strength. You could think about that in a metaphorical way. Kyle holds strength for us, for our system, because we need that strength to stay safe and look after ourselves. But that does not mean that these traits, these emotions, do not belong to him inherently, because they do.
Tierney's catty, slutty.
That's not a nice... Wow, that's really mean. Why would you say, like, nasty things like that about your alters to, like, millions of people who watch you? I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit, like, anxious and heated and emotional because I'm protective of my system. So seeing Trish not be protective of her system makes me feel bad for those alters, you know? It's kind of like let's say your mother has, 2 million subscribers on YouTube and sits down and tells the whole world about you, their child, son, daughter, non-binary child, however you present, and telling the whole world, oh yeah, they lie a lot for attention, they're slutty, they're, they're more than just parts of you, they are their own people, they're gonna have responses to this, they're gonna feel hurt. Well, I'd assume they would, I would, any of my alters would. I would never sit down and tell the world about all Kyle's faults, or all of Sally's faults, or all the arguments that we have between us. It's personal information, and bad-mouthing people who are struggling and trying their best is not a good way forward in any circumstance. How much you want to share and how much other alters in your system are comfortable with you sharing about them. Communication is so important, especially if you don't have super good communication.
Unfortunately, tyranny comes out quite often. The catty side has subsided. Like,
again, unfortunately, tyranny comes out quite often. Every alter has a reason and a right to exist and to use the body. You have to work with that. If they have unhealthy coping mechanisms, like a lot of persecutors do, or misguided understandings of how to keep you and your system safe, saying that they're horrible people and that, you know, it's terrible when they front and that they shouldn't deserve to front and you wish they would just go away, is not gonna help the situation. It's just gonna make them hurt even worse and reaffirm that they can't be anything different than what they are, that they're hated, that they're inherently bad. It is not a good way forward. If you do have persecutors in your system or would like to learn more about persecutors, or, you know, people often use the trope of evil alters, and you want to learn like what that actually is about, where that trope comes from, there's no such thing as an evil alter. Please watch our video on persecutors. It's one of the most misunderstood parts of DID, and it's very important that people learn and understand about it. Again, in any circumstance, it doesn't matter whether you have DID or not, there is no excuse for being abusive. There is no excuse. System responsibility has to be a factor. We also have videos about system responsibility. Everybody has to take responsibility for every other person's actions because you are all part of a whole, even though you are all individuals. Unfortunately, that's just something that's even more complicated that has to come with dealing with DID. Yeah, maybe you didn't hurt this person, but somebody else in your system does. You still have to apologize to that person, even if you didn't do it yourself. See, DID is complicated. It's not easy, and it's difficult. Trisha's obviously not very educated on this subject or has misunderstood things. It sounds like she's just watched Anthony Padilla's video and kind of clicked some things together, potentially. I'm not saying that that's the case. This is just what's coming through in the video to me. I could be misunderstanding, and if I am, I apologize. But it's hard to sit here and watch somebody, one, call me crazy and spread information that's very incorrect and damaging about our community, which undoes a lot of the hard work that me and a lot of other content creators in the DID community have done. It's taken a long time for us to get to the point where we are, all of us together. I mean the whole community, not all of us together as in everybody in my system, the whole community, all these people on YouTube. There are so many that you should check out. There's a big list down the side of our channel of content that we recommend, channels that we recommend. It's a group effort, and it's hard to sit here and watch somebody who has such a huge reach spread such damaging information. And I'm not sure that Trish really understands how damaging this is. And to me, it feels extremely personal and very hurtful, and my skin is burning right now. I don't know if you can tell that I'm a little bit like out of breath and fast, I guess, because it scares me. It scares me that people might watch this and think that everything that Trish is saying is correct, and that it's okay to call people crazy, and that it's okay to think that DID is scary, like she said, and that, you know, having different parts to yourself may mean that you have DID, that MPD, multiple personality disorder, and DID are different things, and that you can have alters without having dissociation. All these things are completely wrong. Scientifically, they are wrong. I don't know if I can get through this whole thing. I'm halfway through. I'm gonna try because I want to be respectful to Trish. And please, 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 please don't consider this to be me attacking Trisha. I'm not trying to. I'm just giving you my honest, immediate reaction. Obviously, I haven't had any time to watch this and reflect on what I'm saying. I am watching and you are getting my emotions and responses immediately as they happen. It's just very important to me that the right information is put across, and it may not necessarily be her fault that she's uninformed, but she should know better, know the influence of having such a huge reach to give out such, not just personal, but sensitive information that reflects on more than just Trisha. This reflects on our whole community, which is a very damaged community. We are very strong people. People with DID are so strong and so capable, and you can live a healthy and successful life with DID, like I repeat in every video, but it is not an easy disorder, and there are people who cannot deal with it. You have to be aware when you're speaking about things that are so stigmatized, that what you say when you have a huge reach is going to have a massive knock-on impact, and you have to be aware and you have to be careful. It's not about just you and how you feel and your existence and your system, it's about the knock-on effect to every other system out there, to every other person with DID, how you are putting this disorder forward as to how you feel about it, what you know about it. Somebody else is going to watch that and think that, okay, yeah, sure. And I know that that's not fun. And I don't think that Trish does her YouTube channel for, like, obviously not educational purposes like we do. It's not something that she's probably going to want to sit down and think about, oh, you know, what's going to be the knock-on impact of this on, you know, another community, a disadvantaged community. She's going to want to sit down and, you know, tell people what's going on and chill out with her fans. But obviously we come from a very different place, and there's going to be differences in, you know, how Trish wants to portray her experiences and how we do. And I don't want to be sitting on a high horse saying that everybody should be like this or everybody should be like that, but I think that it is worth taking into consideration if you are talking about something that will affect a marginalized group, what information you are putting out there. Damn.
Okay. It has subsided, and it feels almost like he's dying in a way.
Okay, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. This is actually starting to get quite upsetting. So I got to 9 minutes and 57 seconds of a 20 minute 30-second video. Please do your research on dissociative identity disorder. ALTERS can't die. ALTERS can, they can integrate, fuse, they can go dormant, but ALTERS cannot die per se. So, yeah, I'm having a struggle. It's like, what time is it right now? It's 3:30 in the morning. 3:22. It's not wanting to work, but it's 3:22 in the morning. Because I was woken up at 1 AM to people saying, hey, have you seen this? You need to react to this. And then seeing all over Twitter, have you seen this? You need to see this. What's your response? You know, how do you feel about it? You're mentioned specifically, and the video you were in is mentioned specifically. So I literally sat down, was like, what in the world is going on, to my friends, and they were like, she called you crazy, we're all offended about what she said about the ID and stuff like that. I know that Fragmented Psyche has done a response. I haven't seen it yet. Zach from their system made it and posted it while I was doing my makeup to do this, so I haven't seen it yet because I didn't want spoilers. Have a look at that to see how somebody else with DID feels. I don't know if anybody else is going to do anything like this, but this was a very raw and personal reaction. I'm sorry if I said anything in the heat of the moment that came across as very egotistical or selfish or offensive. And if there is anything that I said or any reaction that I had that you feel is problematic, please do let us know. I am of the opinion that there is always something that we can do to improve and be better, be more respectful, be more aware, and I appreciate you guys calling us out when needs be. Thank you for watching. I hope that this helped kind of spread some more responsibly sourced information about DID, especially if you have come from watching Trisha's stuff and wondering what is going on with all this DID stuff. If you would like to learn, please have a look at our Debunking DID playlist. Again, that stands for debunking the stigmas and inaccurate connotations that surround dissociative identity disorder. We are not debunking DID, it is just a short name for the playlist. They are our scientific videos. If you want to learn about pretty much anything, we will have something on the channel and you will know where our information is coming from. So please remember to be kind to each other, and most of all, be kind to yourselves, and know that there are people out there who see you, and that there are people out there who are fighting for better things, and you're capable and deserving of living a good life. Thank you for watching, everybody. This is going to be a mammoth video. Lots of love, everybody. Bye.